Hello everybody, welcome to the show. Can you hear me? Bass and Bonsai, back in the house. We were out on the water. You just saw I dropped a little quick clip of fishing with the new Arise Elite. And I think I missed a couple fish just because I didn't have the drag tight enough right off the bat. And this is the Teton, which it's kind of a soft rod, and with the too soft to drag. Nothing to do with the reel, just me, getting it out there first trip on the water. But so far, no issues whatsoever with the reel. It's a very good casting, working. I think I've got reel too thick a line on, but I ended up there at the end just crappie fishing with it, basically throwing a 16th ounce crappie jig. Then I switched to a bobber to actually catch one. They just were on like you need to go about 2 foot deep, 2.5 foot deep, and just let it kind of set real slow is how they were hitting on crappie. Sometimes crappie can be finicky on how you get them. But anyway, the reel, so far, no problem. If this is the first video you've seen, you're like, what reel are you talking about? You can go to AliExpress, get the Habo Arise Elite. This is the more for like bass, regular BFS type stuff. And then they've got an Air, which is geared more for like the ultralight or little smaller creeks and streams. Slightly, they should be close in what they can do. This one should not be able to go down quite as low as the other one. And if you guys know, he's got one or has one coming. He's going to give us a report on what he thinks it's like compared to his other BFS reels. But so far I'm liking this one. Am I loving it? I don't know about that. It's a very good reel. It's pretty much what I figured it was, but it is a $168 reel. It is a lot more expensive than a lot of other BFS reels you can get from AliExpress. So they're trying to touch in on that little higher quality range, and the only issue I've had with the reel is they did away with the clicker on the spool tension knob from the regular Arise, which they call, and I still don't have any knobs on this one, but they call this one the Pro. But it has that clicker, and the other one, I just like that cap overall better. I think they've downgraded that one by switching to what they did. But anyway, awesome reels. I just, it's hard for me to tell you guys that go to AliExpress and get a reel that's $128 or $168 on that Elite. The Air is only like $119, but they're good reels. But you can still go in and get the Lingle or the Linglong, which are also very good reels. But this is a graphite frame, carbon, graphite, plastic, whatever you want to call it. And all of the Arise reels except for that Air, the Pros, and this Elite are, I believe, aluminum frame. This is definitely a metal. I'm not sure if they stuck with the aluminum or went with the magnesium. I think it's aluminum, but I'm definitely not 100% sure on that. But it's definitely a more refined reel than the Lingles or the Acuras or the Dark Wolf Ultras and stuff like that. But as far as performance, just because of the magnetic system, braking system, the spool weight and all size, it's not as capable as like the Dark Wolf Ultra, the Black Knight 2, and the ones with the smaller like 28 millimeter spools or 30 or whatever. This is a little what I would call probably right around where the Corrado BFS is. It could be close to where the older Calcutta Conquest or the older Aldebaran. I think it's 2017 model Aldebaran. It could be within range of that, but it's definitely not down in that real Alpha's Air, Aldebaran 22, Dark Wolf Ultra, Black Knight 2 capabilities. It just won't cast quite as low as comfortably as those other reels. You can throw a trout magnet, but it's pretty tough to do. It does throw 16th ounce real well, and then on up it seems to cast like this TRD. It like flings that little dude out there. It's like a 16th ounce with the TRD on it. You can send that thing about as far as you want to cast it with still trying to be able to set the hook. So, and there's more to come. I'll be fishing it again this weekend. Gonna go Saturday again. But I want to talk real quick about some little modifications I've done. And the video is going to drop in the middle of the night tonight as soon as it's done. Basically just showing this jig. Oh, I still got gunk from the trip dried up. So I just modified by adding some living rubber to it. If you guys remember right, it's something anybody can do, or you can make your own jigs on skirt material or whatever you want to do. So add a little bit of living rubber to that Crocodile peanut butter and jelly. That is the actual Rage Menace, not a baby Rage Menace. Just kind of going for that little bigger bite, right? Big bait, big bass kind of deal. And it worked for a bass, but it wasn't like no monster. But you'll see in the video that's coming out. So I want to talk real quick about, if you guys get a Mini Max, I would suggest, just like we do, and I recommended on the AliExpress knockoff ones, is when you get one of these, and we went up to Rogers today, I thought they were $6.99 or $7.99. And the only reason I buy this one, and I'm not going to get any of the like the black and blues and the other ones like that, because they don't have a black and blue with the gold blade anyway, so I'd have to make my own. Let's just pull that dude out of that hole. So this color is kind of a, I like the color. It's a very good color, 3/8 ounce. They're made very well. Like, in order to take even an AliExpress one and make it that color, you would still be pushing a couple extra dollars or time to do it. So I will be buying this color probably as long as I feel it works very well, because it's just a little bit smaller of a profile. It's made pretty, I guess it's made real well, except for the fact that you do have to glue this, and I'm trying to show you guys. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. Even though I think that's a wire, they can still loosen up, as I found out, just after a bunch of bass. Now, it caught a bunch of fish. If you guys can see the wire in there, I think that's a wire that they used to hand tie that skirt material. But in our, I don't even know how many fish, 30, 40 fish, this one broke loose. Hello, Bruce. So what I did was, of course, I had the living rubber, so I also added some material out of another jig. Added a few more colors of different, kind of like green pumpkin-y, watermelon, a couple strands up there. The top side is basically what was missing. So I got it back to looking close, and it'll give us just a little bit different, almost a combination of peanut butter jelly and a bluegill color. Should work. And I may cut a few out here and there, depends on, I'm just going to get it out and use it for a little bit and see how it settles in. A lot of times I'll do that with the ones I buy them. I'll trim out. I don't like when I hold my, no matter what, if it's a jig, kind of like this one, I probably need to trim it up. If it's too flat and straight cut, you know, just like a bowl cut on a person's head, I will try to trim it up and give it, I don't like it when they're that, what I call like squared off. But just a little modification, and I'll get out and try it. And if for some reason I just don't like it at all, I'll just take all that skirt material off and put some other kind of skirt on it, because that is still a very sharp, very good chatterbait on the Mini Max. They are made overall very well, very good put together baits. You can kind of get by with the regular minis, but they don't have that color. This color, I feel, whoa, look out. Whoa, look out. This color is just an awesome color, imitating bluegill. Z-Man makes this the bluegill color I like on this and their spinnerbait. And the spinnerbait's held on a little bit, but the finish is starting to wear off on the head of it. And I probably need to pick another one of those up, because they are fish catchers. But the colors don't really translate to all the bodies of water I fish. And I was going to talk about that, and then I'll talk about what to look forward to coming up, and then what I got going on over here. So I bought these baits not for night fishing. These I think are intended more for darker days, water, kind of, big thumps along the bottom. They came with these blades, right? Booyah blade is right there. But basically the same blades came on both of these baits, just almost identical. And I decided to change it up. You guys know me, if you know the history of me, with the black and blue chatterbait with a gold blade. So I decided at Rogers, they sell these for like 50 cents a piece. I wanted to add one, and this one is pretty much the same size as what we took off. And I didn't buy two. I just wanted to try a bigger one. So I'm going to try the same size on the black and blue, and that's our little trailer from Rogers also. Just for slow rolling a spinnerbait, down there, kind of like I would a chatterbait, but this should get through if I'm around any kind of wood. If there's any little stick ups, I'm starting to get tired of losing baits once you get very deep. But I'm just going to try that, and then I want to try a little bit. I might try copper. I haven't decided yet. They did have a bigger blade, so I want to try a bigger blade just to see what it does, what it feels like. I may hate it, I may love it, I don't know. And then this color is also sort of close to what some of those chatterbaits that are doing good, but that's just a known color that also works a lot of times. So between those two and then just our regular bigger, what did I do with them all? 3/4 ounce, kind of more just bright for slow rolling when I'm, murky or muddier water. This would be for more clear water, or could be like just darker days, not necessarily muddy water. But anyway, between these 4 baits, these are what I plan on when I just feel like slow rolling a spinnerbait down a little bit deeper might be the ticket to just kind of work on, enhance my spinnerbait game right this year. But so far I'm liking these, or those kind of the Megabass SV3 knockoffs is what they are. They come from AliExpress. By the time you it's like $2 and something a piece. They try to charge you so much for shipping, but I order like a few at a time, so you end up with about I want to say $3, I think under $4 a piece. And these work very well. I like the thump they put out. They're pretty small, compact. I definitely probably am going to cut all these off and run a little Meredith, or you could do the Guggen baits, the Strike King, or an actual Keytech. I like the 3/3s, 3-inch, just over 3-inch. Especially on these little compact ones. Now on the bigger ones you could run a little bigger, or run these I'm kind of running craw things. I'm trying to imitate a crawdad with the spinnerbait. Typically I think spinnerbaits imitate fish, chatterbaits imitate crawfish, crawdads in my opinion. Same thing with majority of the time jigs. You're down there trying to imitate a slower moving creature on bottom. I know though, sometimes you take a jig that is almost just like a fish and it will catch him also. So that's what we have to look forward to, going fishing with Matt. And the main places we've fished, there's a place called Tom's, there's Pogue, there's Lake Lafayette, or probably our main 3 places. There's also a grass pit and another pit, I don't even know what to call it, that we've hit so far this year. And if you're wondering like, well, why are you focusing on bottom stuff? Because so far this year, all the big bass, I'm talking big, 4-pound to 6.5-pound bass, have come mainly on, I'm trying to think if any of them came on anything other than bottom bouncing. And other than I caught my almost 6.5 on a chatterbait in pretty thick grass. Everything started out me and Charles catching them. If you remember right, we were bouncing the lipless, right, rattle trap type baits from Booyah Hard Knocker or One Knocker, the LV500, the Quake 70s. We're bouncing them on bottom. When it was real cold, caught some big fish. Matt managed on a bait basically like this, caught 3 in one day that were 5 or over. 2 of them I'm guessing over 6. I caught a 4, guessing 4 on basically this jig before I added live rubber. Actually 3/8 ounce one. This is a 1/2 ounce. And then we've caught a few. I caught a few other bigger ones, mainly on jigs or bottom, like down low, right? And if you guys have watched the videos, how many dinks we've been tearing up higher up in the water column. I don't know if it's, and it's like every place we fish is that way, other than that one big one I caught on a chatterbait. So it's like, well, maybe I need to focus in the meantime anyway, until I start getting something up higher, focus a little more time down low to get on a little bigger quality fish. Slow rolling, even the little spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, I always try to work, my intention is to start out going as slow as I can. Sometimes I get a little anxious, and if the bite goes on, then I just tend to try to find the speed that I'm getting the most hits on and stick with that. So, although the majority of the fish, the bites, have come on bottom, the color spectrum and really the type of baits has been across the board. Like, that part is different. It's like varied between, and then the general bite is different in what they've been biting on. And I would call the water clarity not that far off. It seems like everywhere we're fishing so far this year is clearer than normal. And I feel like we've gotten quite a bit of rain. I couldn't explain to you why some years it seems like everything's muddy, dirty, or in the spring, and other times it's just clear. Because I feel, and this my bro science, in the winter everything calms down, freezes up. Like, the water does spend a lot of time not moving everything down, whether it be grass carp, stuff on the bottom, catfish stirring up the mud. So typically your cold water, it just ends up being clear until the spring rains and certain stuff, and it could get floods and muddies it up. High winds can churn up, especially smaller bodies of water can churn them up, where you have like mud banks, and there's several different variables. But it seems like everywhere we're going this year, the water levels are back up, but it's clear water. But the bait colors and types of stuff seems to be different. It seems like at Tom's there's a more chance of a hard bait working, if you guys remember right, whether it be the LV500s or the lipless, and then the little cranks seem to kind of be the majority. And then when we're fishing with Matt, it seems like soft plastics and kind of a hit and miss, like an oddball. It could be anything, with the jerkbait was on fire one day, and then it seems like now you can catch some dinks, but like it's shut down. And then basically jigs and bottom bouncing soft plastics. Some chatterbaits, I don't know. I think Matt caught one spinnerbait fish, and I don't know if I've caught a spinnerbait fish yet out of that place. But then when I went to Pogue, me and Charles went, it seemed like chatterbait was the bait of choice for me, for sure. Charles, I think most of his came on a little square bill. But I went back to Pogue, and although the chatterbait seemed to work a little, I got on fire with a spinnerbait. And I mean, it was like no comparison. Like, that spinnerbait, that's what they were wanting. Kind of about as slow as I could, and then just giving it little twitches, and they were on that bait. And I tried that like a week later at Lafayette. Couldn't even get a hit on it. Couldn't really get anything going with chatterbaits where the water was warmer, but they could be in their spawn. It's just hard to tell. You just got to almost go out there and throw the baits you've had luck, and seasonal thing, like everybody's putting out their videos with, you know, top 3, top 5 baits for, you know, March, April, May. I throw pretty much the same thing all the time. I just throw it and see what it does, and then I slow down from there. It's like I've talked about before, when I approach a body of water, if I've been there before, I know they tell you don't like fish in the past, but if they've hit it before, and if I can remember hitting it when the water's cold and what they were hitting on, or if they were hitting on it whenever, there's just some places, some types of baits, just like there's that, it's not even a myth, it's like reality. We talked about before, the Gambler soft plastics just seem to work down in Florida, right? And Jay can probably attest to that. And just, you know, so you'd be doing very well to be throwing that kind of stuff down there at almost any all times of year. But there's just certain colors that also just kind of work better at some places than others, even if the water seems very close in comparison. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like these bass all get together in one body of water and decide what they're going to hit on any given day. That part has always kind of amazed me, how bass, if it's not a pattern, just one fish, but it seems like if you get, like you'll hear me say it, like you get me on a color and it's game over, because if I'm throwing something and I catch one and I catch another and another on like the same bait, same color, it's kind of, and it's not just that part of it is that I just keep throwing it, but it's like that's what, you know, that told me I should throw it, because that is just, for whatever reason, they're tuned in to that color and that bait. Like every fish you're going to get, if you get it in front of their face, they'll either going to eat it, or they're going to swat at it, or they're going to do something. There's something about that bait that they can't just let it pass them. And then the trick is, which part are they hitting? Is it because of the color, because it's a chatterbait, because it's a spinnerbait, you know, on what you're throwing? Or just is it the speed, the presentation, the angle, the right depth? Most of the bass are lined up at that depth, so you need to switch to get like every bass that you're going to get in front of to eat it. Do you need to, you know, throw a bluegill spinnerbait over a chatterbait, maybe a bluegill pattern jig, slow it down, or maybe just a green pumpkin soft plastic, and that kind of stuff? And that's just how to kind of just think in your head and try to fine tune that bite for that day. But if you're throwing something out and every, you know, 5 to 10, 10 to 50 yards, you're catching a bass, you're probably getting close. And it's up to you to just keep throwing that, or to try to fine tune and get what they're hitting on. Because a lot of times once you find something, like right now, they're kind of spawning, kind of getting to be done. But a lot of times you'll find a bait that works and it will just continue to work. And it seems to me anyway that it can change. It's not like a guaranteed thing every year that this bluegill small chatterbait is going to get bit consistently all the time. It may work, and colors are kind of like that. Like if you guys remember right, the peanut butter and jelly worm was working for me like 3 years ago. Like I felt it was a confident worm that I could throw, and then it faded to where I ended up going with, still had purple, but like the purple haze, but then with a little bit of purple in the sprayed grass. So for the last like 3 or 4 years, I would say something with purple in it has been what's been my worm of choice. But it kind of varies, and it seems like year to year, and it could just be me and or you guys, if you're fishing the same places consistently. You know, if you're going to the same bodies of water, hitting the same points in the same kind of just the way we fish, and you got to watch. Sometimes it's good to change it up. You may say you go, even if it's a lake or pond, pit or whatever, and if you're just primarily, you start out over here and you're going to fish all the way down this stretch, sometimes it's better just, you know, if you feel the bite, like you just don't say, you know, this week, next week, the bite is slowed off. Sometimes it's best to just go to hit it coming from the other way. Just change them up, because I have seen it before. Just like when you talk about people following other fishermen, you know, just because you watch a boat come through there fishing, who knows what they were fishing. If they aren't fishing what you are, they may catch a fish that wanted this or wanted this, but then if you go through there and you're throwing this, there's a lot of times there's still fish that they didn't even think about hitting what the other guys was throwing, but you can kind of be the same way, hit it a different direction, angle, and any different, could even be a different time of day. You're used to hitting this spot and then this spot and then this spot. Go hit the other spot and alternate. You know, try to, you talk about, you know, retrieves, vary your retrieves and this and that, but a lot of times vary your approach to that body of water. How you hit it, the direction, the angles, the times you hit it, and that kind of stuff can also, you know, if your bite struck, if you're doing good and you're whacking them every time you go, stick to that. But if that starts to fade off, you may want to stick to the bait you're throwing and just change up your angles and your times, and that kind of stuff could, you know, to throw the fish off. Once you know, just like us, once you get used to something, it's easier to go, no. You know, 2 o'clock, here comes this spinner bait. Nope, not going to hit it today. That kind of thing. They say fish only have a memory. I believe it's like 15 minutes. Bass can only remember for 15 minutes. I don't know about that. I can only remember for about 15 minutes, but I'm kind of like old George W. Bush. Fool me once, you fooled me. Fool me twice, you fooled me twice. Fool me 3 times? Well, I got fooled 3 times, right? Oh, George W. So anyway, I probably need to get out of here. Yeah, try the, I like the Baby Rage Menace on chatterbaits. I'm trying the full-size Rage Menace on some of the jigs, but I think I like the Baby Rage Menace on anything. Just a smaller one, because normally I liked, and last year I picked them up, were the, in a 3/8 ounce, the Hack Attack flipping fluoro jigs. They're a little bit smaller hook, because I don't like throwing real heavy stuff, rod and bait wise. Like sticking to either 1/2 ounce or less. I actually like 3. This is a 1/2 ounce, a little bit stouter, so I went a little bit different. Since I got the Super Destroyer, I have no problem setting this kind of hook. But I actually like the 3/8 ounce, any chatterbaits, spinner baits, and then by the time you add some sort of trailer, you're dealing with over a 1/2 ounce bait. It's going to get down, you know, just how I fish them. But I think the Baby Rage Menace, and then I think the 3.3 swing impact fat type swim baits, or I'm also trying the 4-inch diesel minnows from Z-Man to try those on some of the spinner baits. Chatterbaits, I think I'm going to stick with these. And then the goat, I cut the goat down. The goat is probably my favorite, and I need to cut down more and get them rigged up, but so far, Bruce said he ordered a spool tension knob from AliExpress and a few 105mm handles. Yeah, that's, dude, I've been on it, and I know not to do it. I've been on, like, watching some of these swim bait videos. Like, these guys are insane. If you guys know what I'm talking about, Swim Bait Nation, like, it's been, I guess, swim bait, you know, big baits, big bass fishing has been around now for what, 20 plus years probably. I mean, it's probably been around longer than that, but it got kind of popular there for a while. And it's a thing. Like, we've got these cheap AliExpress. Let me get those, but then we'll talk about that real quick. Then I'm going to get out of here. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. You guys done got me fired up thinking about it. Because it looks cool and all, but I'll be honest, you can go out and waste a lot of time throwing a big old bait. And around here, if I lived maybe, you know, way further south to where you stand a chance every day, like here, you stand a chance every day to catch a 5-pounder, but it's probably not going to be daily. You know, I feel lucky. I've caught quite a few already this year, and over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, caught quite a few, you know, 6-pound bass. But here in the Midwest, so I'm not going to go buy a real big swim bait. But what I have done, if you guys remember, and you follow the channel, there's my other, what you call it. I knew I had a couple of these. For some reason, that other one I bought, it does not seem as effective as this one. I need to probably throw these more. But these, right off the bat, I started doing awesome with them. And then they've kind of, can I say petered out? Yeah. But these swim baits, AliExpress ones, whoa. I keep kicking this thing. AliExpress swim baits are sort of legit. Now, that's a mag draft. That's an actual mega bass bait. caught a fish on it, also a couple fish. Have not thrown it much. I don't think it's quite time yet. But these little dudes right here are, and the mag draft for that matter, this is really, it looks kind of like a big bait for some of you guys that aren't used to throwing, but that is really a morsel for a lot of fish. Like here, even in the Midwest, a pound and a half, a 2-pound bass will eat these up when they're in the mood. They will just chomp on these. So if I were you guys, if you're thinking about like, I want to, you know, give swim baiting a shot. Now here's my plan and here's what I recommend you guys do. Like, don't go out. First of all, here's my take on going out, tying on a bait and throwing it all day just to get good at it. No, I do not believe in that. If you go out and you fish it for 20 minutes and you start catching them, you know, 20 minutes, half hour, and you get a hit or a bite, and then every, you know, however long, if you want to do that. But I go out with all intentions of trying something, this or that, and I don't give it a long time. I figure if it's going to hit, it's going to hit. If it doesn't, I switch it up. I'm trying to find, basically, you know, you will come across the big bass, but I'm trying to find, in my opinion, in my mind, I'm trying to find the best bait for the best bite going. You know, it may be dinks that day. You may be like I did that day, and I finally got tired of catching them on a, you know, the best bite going for the numbers was clearly a jerk bait. Like, it was bam, bam, bam. I probably could have caught 40 to 50 bass on a jerk bait if I'd have stuck with it. But I kind of got it in my head that the jerk bait wasn't going to pull in anything over a pound, pound and a half, maybe, if that. They were like little, they weren't much bigger than this dude right here. So I abandoned the jerk bait. I gave it to Hannah. She still was catching some, and I went on to different stuff. But the swim bait game for me, I feel like these little, I consider these almost like a top water. I consider these top water and these like jig bottom, right? Soft ones are basically when the top isn't working, they're not really super active, then you're going to want to throw this. But if you want to use them like together, I would recommend early morning or afternoon, as soon as that sun, that what I call the magic hour, when you get that time where the light's just right and the water's warm enough, they're usually up there busting the surface or thinking about it, is where I plan on, and I would try these. Or if it just gets overcast, it's cloudy, you just, you know, that fishy time when you're like, oh man, they may hit a, you know, whopper plopper, they may hit frogs better, they may hit, you know, any of your top water baits. That's when I consider these like little glides to be an opportune time, or that midday, you know, probably anywhere from, if you're on a bite, say you're on a little bit of a bite, and it'll slow down, it'll get hot, and that bite will just shut off. Those little, like, you know, depends on where you're at and what class of fish you're hitting, but they just, something changes and it slows down. That's when you may want to switch to these. Because if you're just going to be casting and winding and you're kind of waiting for that, you know, midday funk to go away and a bite to come on in the afternoon, and you're killing time instead of stopping to eat lunch, or, you know, you're just hitting the banks, that would be the time to get these out, or this guy, probably this guy also, and just get out there with that, you know, find the pace that this thing seems like it's swimming the best, and just swim it around, or both, and just spend that few hours with a chance to catch a bigger fish. Because I believe that that's your opportunity on any given day to catch a big bass, is that little midday thing or early morning, afternoon. I think most of my buzzbait fish that are big ones were either early morning, like I can't hardly see, you can't really hardly even film and record it, or at night, right when that sun's going. And some of you guys will say, oh, it's in the middle of the night, but I don't do any night fishing. But I will fish up until I cannot hardly see at all, or I can barely make out, you know, looking down the water line, I can kind of see my buzzbait still buzzing. And I've caught some gigantic bass right around those times. So leading up to that, or up to that time, is when these would work. And these, I feel you got to get a kind of rhythm with those too. So throw them out and figure out what pace they need to be, you know, swam or twitched or whatever, to just give them the best, you know, realistic looking glide that you're wanting to get. And then sometimes you can, you know, make them a little more erratic or a little slower, depending on what maybe the mood the fish are in. So I was watching some of the bigger swim bait dudes, like I don't know, there's a bunch of them, I can't even think of their names right now. But what made me start watching all these was when I came across the DRT handles and how outrageously, insanely priced those are. Now you can go to AliExpress and you get a pretty good big Gomexus, just like what Bruce was talking about. 100, 105, 120, whatever. You can get Hogtech handles, fairly reasonable still, I think. In my honest opinion, I mean, they're cool, but I can go out there and catch a gigantic bass with that. I can go out with even smaller than that. I can go out with that BFS, because, which I have. Now, I haven't caught gigantic, but on this rod, Cane Teton, I pulled in my personal best, which was almost 8 pounds, and 10-pound line. I want to say it was 10-pound leader. But anyway, on a shaky head, I don't use the reel to fight the fish. You know, you got to have the drag set for the hook set, and just so he don't just peel the line off. But as far as fighting the fish, I've always just used the rod, and it's kind of you just hold them. Like, yeah, if you're get up and around a bunch of brush and a bunch of, you know, nasty stuff, this is not going to pull in an 8-pound fish. But when you're out in open water, and I was in grass, like if you guys have seen that video, I pulled in a ton of grass with that fish, but I knew I was in a place where, like, I wouldn't get broke off by wood and that. So then you have to do, you know, go up. But the crazy thought that to pull in even a 15, 20 pound, I caught, actually, my huge gigantic carp was on 8-pound braid with the Megabass. It was actually a whole Megabass setup. It was the Rosso, which is basically a Megabass Alphas, 8-pound. I think it was Power Pro, and then the Shading X or Shading X, the 6'6" Megabass Destroyer X7 rod. Just held on to him. The drag was tight, but not tight enough. The line wasn't going to break. It was in a pond. He had nowhere to really go other than out in the middle. He was trying to stay out in the middle, and I finally pulled him up to the bank. I was trying to get Javier to touch his tail just so we could consider him caught. And Javier was scared to death of that big fish. So we sat there and looked at it for a second, and then I just pulled it was in the morning, we were going to eat breakfast, and I didn't want to get all nasty trying to pull that fish up and get a pick. But anyway, it's on there, Bass and Bonsai. You can go watch it if you want. But it is cool, the thought of having a cool, powerful handle so you can strip your gears out on your reel, right? So the DRT, if you guys don't know about the craze in swim baits, you can literally go spend more money on a swim bait than you can on a very bougie rod and reel combo, like the Destroyer, P5 lineup, the Steez Limiteds. They have swim baits. Like, I just watched the video, Matt Lures, he's made a big bass swim bait. I think that dude wants like $5,000 for him. That is insane. First of all, you can lose a swim bait. Most of these don't. They're like a slow sink or a whatever, you know. So soft swim baits, they kind of get up there too. Roman made ones and certain ones get up there, but these hard, you know, the glide baits that have the long, real wide swimming back and forth. But like I mentioned, if you're down in Texas, certain spots in California, Florida, you really need bodies of water that hold, you know, double-digit bass before I would even think about suggesting to anybody spend any kind of money like that on them. And you want to make sure you know what your rod, reel, line setup is and set right to where you're not going to break off in casting or have a fish break you off. But those guys, you're going to lose baits. If you're fishing with $5 baits, $5,000 baits, guess what? You guessed it. You're going to lose baits. Baits will get lost and broken off, or they will just break or fall apart. So you will never see me 100% go that far, but you may see me dedicate something more towards a swim bait setup at some point. Not now, and not fishing the waters I fish, because unfortunately, I don't even know how often a 10-pounder is caught here in the Midwest. Double-digit bass. I know I keep hearing of all these guys that are catching 10-pounders, and a couple places there said there were 14-pounders that we fish, and I think the state record is only 12 or 13. But anyway, the handles look cool. If you guys want to check out some cool handles, the DRT USA, and that's one other thing. You got to watch eBay. eBay has a lot of people, and I don't know if you can call them scammers, because some people say if somebody's willing to pay something, then how can you be scamming them if you list it and they're willing to pay that? But there's a lot of eBay sellers that basically are getting stuff from AliExpress or even here in the US that people don't know about, and they're putting it on eBay and acting like it's a hard to find thing. When in all actuality, if you do your homework, it's not that hard to find. It's sold online. But there's DRT USA. You can get that. Now, some of the older out, they like, DRTs like anybody else are a smaller business, and some of the stuff they just quit making to make other stuff. They can't like keep making everything they make and then also put out new stuff, so they'll discontinue something in order to put something else out. But like currently they have several different handles. They've got slim knobs. You guys probably seen them, the real long ones. But then now through the Working Class Zero, they've also got those the paddle slim knobs or whatever that look pretty cool, but they do need to be on. They're like a huge, basically almost like a Lose or what the original Steez A had, those paddle type knobs, but they're like monster size ones. And I have to admit, they look cool like when they're on a big round reel, like a 300 or 400 size Conquest. They do look cool, but it's kind of, in my opinion, overkill for bass. Now, if you're going out striper fishing or, even cat fishing really, or, just for bigger fish and you want a power handle kind of thing. But there's also crazy prices on certain rods. There's custom rods. Huddleston even makes their own rod. And a lot of the stuff you can find on Tackle Warehouse. But if you guys want to go that route, you want to go down that rabbit hole, you want to go bougie swim baiting, you guys go right ahead. I'm not going to. I do kind of like watching some of those guys go so insane, though. And I'm not knocking them, because I've gone insane over a little 2-pounder and then realized, oh, it's just a 2-pounder. Hell, I've caught a 3-pounder before and thought I had a giant for like the first 15 seconds. But when you watch somebody reel in a 4-pound bass on crazy heavy, extra heavy, triple extra heavy, huge cranking thing, and they're all into it, and it's a 4-pound bass, it's like, come on, guys. I mean, they're fun to catch and all, but just like with the Super Destroyer I have now, it's just so easy to use, is why I'm starting to love that rod, is how easily it'll cast like almost every bait you'll want to throw. And it just pulls a fish in. It just isn't as fun as doing it on the Super Adrena or even the carbon lights, but it is way more like efficient and accuracy over the carbon lights. That's the only downside to the carbon lights. They've got a little, and the in contact with the bait, like the sensitivity of it is, the Adrena and the Super Destroyer are way above like the carbon lights on that fact of it. But as far as hookup ratio, they all seem to be good too. And I'm gonna knock on wood when I can find it. Hang on. Knock on wood. So far, I'm happy with all of this class of rods I've been messing with this year, from the carbon lights to the Super Destroyer, the Poison Adrena. Even the blue ones, but I don't have as many catches on the blue rods. Like, when I set the hook, you fill weight, the percentage of fish that get in the boat is like way up over last year. Last year I was fishing with those contest purple rods, the Fate Black, and a few other rods. I mean, they were good rods and they feel very good, but man, for whatever reason, it could have just been me and I'm more in tune this year. You never know, but I just felt like I was losing fish that should not have come off. I'm like, what is going on? So I have went up in overall length just by a few inches, but I would say I don't even know how to describe. Definitely on the carbon lights is because they're softer rod, and even the Poison Adrena 6'11" medium plus, it's kind of got a softer give to it. But the one contest that I still have that actually I've been using for jerk baits, it's I consider about right there on the same class of how it's got it's got a little soft of a tip, and then it goes even to, it's stiff, but it does bend in the midsection to almost be like a parabolic fill. And the Super Destroyer, it does, but it does it like a crazy stiffer than all the others. But something to do with that, the hookup ratios have definitely, for me this year on this the different class of rods, and it's the $100 rods to the $500 rods. And the only really big difference is a few inches on, 6'9" the shortest of the two, and then 6'11" or 7 foot, 6'10". So I was fishing with 6'8", 6'7" and 6'8" rods last year. So just I don't know if that few inches helped or what, but I mean I've seen back when I fished with 7'3" rods, I was missing quite a few back in the day with the Bass Pro Shops rods. Fishing with like Sweet Beavers, it was the hookup ratios worked. It was good, but I still feel I was back then, for whatever reason, I was losing more fish than I thought I should have. I can remember way back when. Okay, Bruce says, hang on. Oh, that's why you ordered a big one. Bruce has a Dobbins 7'9" swimbait rod. Picked it up for $20. Had to drill a few holes in the reel seat and inject epoxy. Setting here for 3 months. No, on the regular whopper ploppers, no, I don't use any. Yeah, Matt would want to go fishing with you. Bruce says, too many water moccasins for night fishing in North Carolina. Frank says he's a Vision 110 color collector. Has some crazy colors. Yeah, the Megabass Vision 110s. How many colors are there, though? There's like 500 or better. Like, there's insane amount of those. Bruce says he doesn't even own one to retrieve. Honestly, I don't even own one Vision 110 other than the square bill one. Now, I have two of the Vision 110 Plus 1 Juniors, but I'll be honest with you, Bruce. There's something about that Megabass Vision 110, and I think I know what it is after hearing, and it's not like I just discovered it, but it was always known. I think it's something to do with the bill, and I watched Matt break off like 2 or 3. If you jerk those and you hit bottom, you got to be careful, or a chunk of wood or something, that front lip will break off. Now, it won't under any other circumstance. Like, you can jerk it and all that. But I think what gives the Vision 110, now the 110 Plus 1 Junior is a little different animal, because I think that a little bit smaller, and it just gets down, and it runs at the right depth for the majority of the time when the jerkbait bites on. Like spring, fall, it just gets right about where the average fish kind of they get to be. Just my opinion, because I've tried some of these others. Some of them are knockoffs and other brands, and the Stacy 90, I can't figure out how to get the Stacy 90 to catch me a fish. That bait, I bought one years ago. I just bought one. I do not have any luck on a Stacy 90. But the Vision 110, that bill actually gives. It's designed that way because when you jerk it, it makes it even more erratic than your jerking can go. Like a guy can only, just like I talked about fishing, you're kind of a creature of habit. You can only jerk a jerk bait so many different ways. But what that bait does is that bill, if you jerk it real hard, it flexes and it will let it jerk. It moves a little different. So you'll be jerking it and you may not flex the bill and it'll jerk a certain way, and then you go a little harder and the bill flexes and it jerks a different one. So it's more erratic than almost any other, in my opinion anyway, more erratic than any other jerk bait out there. The other ones, even the copies, I don't think they've realized that part and have it to an exact science. Now they're good. They're about the same. Like you can catch a lot on the RC sticks and several others. And not to mention the colors, just like what Frank was talking about. There's a ton of different colors. Now, you could not sit and try to go through each color of every colored Vision 110 to try to figure out exactly which one they were biting on that day. You would run out of time. But just picking a few different colors, basically just a kind of a whitish color or a matte color, a one that gives off flash, a brighter one, something with a little bit of chartreuse. You only really need 3 to 5 colors of any given bait, and you can cover what they probably will be hitting on. Right? So, the, what was I going to talk about? Hang on. He asked me about a barrel swivel. If you guys remember right, you don't need them, in my opinion, for even this little dude. And this is, whoa, hang on. And that's another thing. I got this day box, and it's a nightmare. I got to redo it. I was like, I'm going to have a day box so I can put a few different baits, you know, what I want to start with. Problem is now I've turned it into this little mini tackle box that just has a bunch of jumbled up junk in it, and it's so hard to pick through that I've created my own monster with it. But I picked up that little knockoff, and that's like the smaller size, and so far I haven't seen an issue with it. And why he's asking me that is, some of you guys aren't familiar with this bait. The littler ones that I do have, you can get even smaller than this from AliExpress. Those need a barrel swivel. So, whoa, hang on. Oops. Where'd they go? Hang on. I got so much stuff moved around now. That's another thing. This year I'm switching. I'm getting all the baits that I like and that work, and then I'm weeding out all the old ones. So Brew Tank was asking me this, and I might do a fireball sale this weekend and get rid of most of these rods and reels that I don't want anymore. But the process of this year is also going to be weeding out some of my baits that I picked up. I'm not a collector. I don't want a whole 50 million tackle boxes full of baits, but I do want to kind of fine-tune baits that just consistently get bit, colors that consistently get bit. So if you guys remember right, last year I think it was when me and Charles stumbled upon these, or I stumbled upon them and Charles jumped on, and Charles loves a whopper plopper more than I do now. But you can get these little AliExpress ones. So that's the smallest, like the 90 or whatever that they make. I don't run anything. I feel this one, I just swim it, and when it, I kind of swim it back to the boat without it. If you go too fast, they'll just start twirling. But it takes a lot for this one to do it. And I don't like have an issue with line twist. Plus I use braid. Line twists aren't as big a deal as if you use fluoro or whatever. But this little dude, that's the smaller one. If you guys don't know anything about those, look it up. Somewhere in one of these videos, I think I call it a mini or micro whopper plopper. Just search that under my, bass and bonsai. Whopper plopper probably will bring it up, or micro whopper plopper, mini whopper plopper. But that is a little bitty dinky, definitely BFS whopper plopper. But those, you got to go slow, and you can't go very fast. And definitely if you get out there and you want to reel it back, it just instantly starts twirling. So I rigged up on mine these little barrel swivels right off the bat. Can it hinder performance? I don't know, but you trust me, it twists up your line so bad if you don't have them, to where, if you guys see, I just rigged them up on each one of mine. I have these 3 colors left now. I think I had another clear or whiter one. So I just have a dark one. That's one of my favorite. I like that color. And then just like a fire tiger one. Do not even hardly ever, I didn't, they definitely get hit. I just have not, right, I don't know, just haven't been, I need to get out and throw them more this year. These guys have been, I got those last year and really didn't, this color, actually any of them, that white one, this color looks good, this color looks real good. Have not really thrown these much at all either. Still, as far as topwater baits go, for little BFS fishing, you can't beat these or those little, oh, I already forget the name of these little dudes. That dude right there caught me a gigantic bass. Got it on video. Go watch it if you guys are new to the channel. That dude, I was not expecting a monster bass. Threw it up against some gunky, mossy stuff along the bank and got bluey. Big battle. I think that was on the Teton 632 ultralight. That was a battle. But these little baits, unfortunately, I don't think you can get them anymore quite like this. I think you can get this bait, but no tail. You got to put your own tail on it. But those little poppers are awesome. My favorite BFS topwater bait. But these are like next, and then these I just haven't had the luck as I've had with poppers or those. And then they've even got the little bitty smaller poppers for like truly like creek and stream, one little single treble on the back. But yeah, for the regular whopper plopper, I usually just take that off actually too, and just I use snap, so I just put my snap right on that. This color I thought would work good, but honestly I think I'm gonna scrape off. Most of that chartreuse. I think for like on a jerkbait, I think it's good. The elegy bone type color. They call it something else too, but elegy bone basically. But I think for a topwater on top, I think that's, in my opinion, that's too much. It's too bright. I think I'm going to scrape it down at some point. I think it'll be a little better for that. So yeah, got a ton of stuff. I will not have near the time to get out here and get all this stuff fished and figured out. Let me put this stuff up. But we're going out Saturday with Matt. Weather looks pretty good. Should be a good day of fishing. And those of you that, if you remember, I talked about I was going to do my little free rig thing. I tried that out. And actually, I think I caught, did I catch one fish? I had a worm, the Berkeley worm on it. I think I managed one fish. And then we were ready to go. But just my way to see if I could quickly snap on something that would work fairly similar to a Texas rig without having to cut my snap off, slide a, bullet sinker on, retie, just a quick way to slap a hook and a sinker some way on, kind of like a free rig way, and do that. So I think it's going to work, but I think that weight was a little too light for the bigger worm I had on it. So anyway, how many of you guys are going to go swim baiting? Order a big rod. Where'd you get that at, right? You had that forever, Eugene? Three different size whopper ploppers, all of them spiral. How fast are you reeling those suckers? They should not cause... I have the real big one and them smaller ones. I've never had an issue with those. Now that little bitty one, BFS one, that thing was a nightmare, so I switched all of those. I've never tried the Chapo. I've always loved the whopper plopper. That thing is like... The whopper ploppers are legit. Charles has already been on a couple. I don't know if I guess I haven't edited those videos yet. They'll be coming probably next week or two. Charles would catch like 3 to 5 fish before I even got going on that little bitty. He's got like a little perch colored whopper plopper like that 90 I just showed you I had in the Elegy Bone. And just like bam, bam, bam. I'm like, Jesus, Charles, slow down. And it may be, I don't know. No, I think it's original whopper plopper. You can get that almost exact the sizes of the knockoffs, but like I've showed you guys that big whopper plopper is at the 110 or 130 or whatever. That's the very first whopper plopper I ever bought. I'm still using it to this day. I've never even sharpened them hooks. They still feel sharp. That thing just, the whopper plopper is a very good overall bait in my opinion. Eugene, you're telling me you have 2 of the 2017 Steez SVTWs in that, because they have the 1012 SV extra high. It's a high speed ratio, purple highlights, and it's definitely a shallower spool. It's not the 1012 is a little bit shallower spool, I think. So what are you trying? You trying to sell them, Eugene? You want to trade them? You need some zillions, a zillion 10 and a zillion 1000 in your life, Eugene. And then you can put big swim bait handles on them and go out and catch some monsters. Them little low magnesium Steezes, you'll tear them up. You better trade them to me. Now, if I was a little bit on the bougie side and I wanted to go, well, there's 2 ways you could go, in my opinion, swim baiting. Well, there's about 50 million different ways, but it would be cool to get, I don't even know what size. I definitely don't want a 400. I don't think I want a 3. I think I want a 100 size. The Gold Conquest, which is their newest one, 100. 20-pound braid, maybe 25 or 30. And I don't even know what rod. I put me a bougie DRT handle. I'm not even sure which one. What I'd like to have, if you guys know where I can get a good set of the old school, if you guys remember the Inertia carbon fiber handle with the cork big knobs, I would like to come across a good deal on one of those. I think that's what kind of started the craze with the bigger knobs and handles. Some of these JDM ones that weren't really rare. I guess they were kind of rare. Nothing was brought over here. I think you had to order all those from the Japanese sites. But those knobs are just cool. But the Gomexus one makes one that comes close, and it's only like $54 for the aluminum handle with cork, pretty decent sized knobs. It's yeah, I don't know. It just definitely does not look as cool as the Inertia ones. But if I went full DRT, I would get the sand colored paddle ones, and then put it on. I don't know. I'm betting, as stout as this Super Destroyer is, I would think that either the Jungle 7, any of those Megabass rods that's on the 7, because this is a 6, they throw a pretty heavy bait. Heck, I've thrown this little rod right here. I've thrown my big whopper plopper with it. Now, I can't fling it like as far as that whopper plopper can be cast with bigger rods, but this is a 6.6 light, but it's real parabolic, and so I can, like, let the rod come back and then just kind of let it pick up the pace slowly and then give it a little right at the end, and I can make a long cast with that big whopper plopper and catch a fish. It's on video. Is it ideal? No, but if this little thing will cast a full-size whopper plopper, I was throwing the 802C. I was catching fish with this little, because this is a very light little bait. This is not, in my opinion, that's not a very big bait. This isn't a very big bait. Like, I can fling that out there with almost any rod I own, I feel anyway. I can't go like full on, but so I would think that heavy duty, like a Megabass rod, would be all I would need for pretty much any kind of swim bait. Like, I got this dude here. Now, this is a cheap knockoff from AliExpress. It's that little 6-inch. I do not like the way that. I would definitely, in my opinion, if I was serious about this, I would rig up some little, probably a Stinger treble hook right there. I don't like where that's at. That was like $2 or $3 off AliExpress. I think it needs to be bigger. It reminds me of the 68 Huddleston, which is the 6-inch, but with the 8-inch tail, and this is a very little 6-inchy type tail. It needs a bigger tail. But I bought these just in case I ever get in the mood to cast around, and I don't know. I think they both suck. I should have got this color. I would say in any given time, though, they will catch a fish. And maybe I'll use them one day for a sacrifice. I don't know if I would want to put... I won't want to put anything under there. I'd want to put it up here because these I would want to throw out and just drag along the bottom kind of thing. I wouldn't want to have something down there that could get caught up. Just my opinion. Like this guy. But this guy, you don't really want to drag anyway. You want to get that out and just get it at a certain speed. The mag draft. But then if they're not, doesn't seem like they'll hit that. Sometimes just creeping something like that, dragging along the bottom, will entice them to whack it. But it's one of those things that almost takes like the all day type deal. Tie it on and just go throw it forever. That ain't me. But like I talked about, maybe, I think I have caught a few fish on these. These are ones I bought a couple and they were giving them away for like a little gift when I was buying different stuff last year or the year before. These little swim baits are, I don't know. They're about ready to leave my tackle box probably. I don't get in here that much. I'm gonna try to get in there more once that, like I said, once that early morning fishing, it's just getting daylight, we hit the water. I might have one of these rigged up now on one of my rods along with the whopper plopper, buzz bait, and then just start out with one of these that's subtle, especially if the water, like I like a popper if it's calm. If there's not much of a ripple or calm and a popper's not working, then like something like this. And then I like a whopper plopper. But then if it's almost like you would a spinnerbait, if it's choppy or water and it's just, the fish are on, a lot of times I like a buzz bait. And then a buzz bait, you can almost throw it in the nastiest of stuff, almost where you would a frog. A buzz bait, as long as you throw it and you start pulling it back toward you, like literally before it hits the ground or water, because you can almost cast them on the bank in the grass. You start pulling it back right as it is landing and start reeling, it will kind of just come through and across like amazing stuff that you would think it would get gunked up, and it'll just start twirling its little blade. And now the real gunky, mossy stuff you can't go through there, but like a lot of different, floating type grass stuff through lily pads, all that kind of stuff, it'll go through a lot, kind of like what a spinnerbait will, a buzz bait. To where some of these, like this bait, but like this little dude go anywhere. I've only caught one or two fish on that, but I don't fish it that much. I need to start fishing it a little more along with this crawdad. Sleeper crawl, dark sleeper. I've tried them here and there. Just that one day, all these Megabass soft plastics were, worked the brief time I threw them. And then since then, I have not thrown that dude. That other color one I've tried for like an hour one day. Couldn't get another fish to hit it. Well, maybe not an hour. And then I haven't thrown this guy since that day either. There you got so many baits. Frank says the Gomex is pre-assembled, feel bulletproof. Yeah, I mean they should be. They look stout. Like oh, Bruce says he gets on Facebook Marketplace and buys like big bulk, large package deals and sell off what you don't want. Yeah, I can feel you on that one. I've been known to do that a time or two. I'll spot something, I'm like, oh, I want this and this, and I'm like looking, oh, that and that'll sell for almost what they want for it, so I'll buy it and then take your time to sell the other stuff off, kind of deal. Yeah, the Go Maxus, all of them look good. Like honestly, that's one of those little bitty old handles off of the, I think this was off the Dark Ultra maybe. That little 80 millimeter carbon fiber, like that thing, you can crank some power. Like this little 80 millimeter carbon fiber. So some of these like thick aluminum, of course, once they do get longer, they do need to be stouter and thicker. But like, I love that one on my, I didn't think I would just like the length of it, but I can tell you guys right now, this, and I'm thinking about getting a hold of Crazy Lou's lady and telling her I need some more. I don't know if I'll mention the fact that I never paid for the first one or not, but that handle assembly, 95 millimeters with those, man, that just feels good. For just cranking in stuff, for just overall, all of it. I like, that is probably my favorite handle that I've ever used, and it is longer than most of them I've used. I mean, I've used 95, I think the height of Hogtech that was 110, that's just too far, but that length right there on the Super Destroyer, it feels good. And that's an 8.5 to 1. In a sense, it kind of slows me down just a hair with the 8.5, and that's the deep spool, and it's not spooled all the way. So it's probably more like an 8 to 1, if that, compared to like the Poison Adrena. I have a shorter handle with a, and I think it's filled up about all the way because it's a shallow spool, and I got the other shallow spool on the 7 to 1. But I just like that handle assembly. So who knows? If you see me in the future with the DRT handle, know that I probably found one I got a deal on and I have no use for it, but I'll probably use it on somewhere sometime. Because I still believe in catching the biggest fish possible on the smallest rod possible. But it would be cool to have just an overall swim baity setup going, right? Even if it's just to go out to throw 10 XDs, which I never plan on throwing. I've never even thought about buying one. 5 XD, maybe. Alright guys, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get to bed. Nobody wants an Alpha's Air, Eugene. I've sold all mine. Charles may, but I doubt it. Bruce is claiming to have big hands and sausage fingers. Yeah, I got decent hands, but my fingers aren't that big. But I've just always... It's really not in how big these are. It's what your wrist motion is, just a comfort level for me. If I feel like I'm out there making too big a windy, like in a day is a fishing, a longer handle, even though it may be making the bait easier to move, my wrist is moving more, therefore it will wear me out faster. But that 95 and the way those knobs are made, that thing it feels like no, I don't even know what you call it, but it just feels good. And I like these other knobs also. Like these I don't like, they're a little too, so I always trim them up. Like if I've showed you guys those ones, and that's like these are, I've already cut these down. But these are like a little, they're not quite as long, but these are very good also. I like these, but that wind material is just a little bit better than the EVA. It's a little grippier, and the shape, the problem is if the EVA looks weird when you try to, because it's not as grippy. I think if you made it that smooth, your hand would slip right off. The wind stuff has just got a little extra grip to it, so they can get by with making it pretty much a flat cutout. The rods feel good too with that on there. The Elite rods, but man, they're $350 for a Lou's rod. Sorry, not gonna do it. Actually, they're doing 20% sale. You could get it for probably $290, $285, $290. They do feel light. They feel good, but they got a sanded blank, and it just seems, I don't know, it seems cheaper Daiwa feel to me overall. It reminds me of the old, I can't remember the name of it now, Daiwa rod that had that almost transparent sanded blank, you know, unfinished kind of look, but like a, and it's not even like a fine sand. It's like a, it's not really coarse, but it's just you can kind of tell it's been sanded and then left, and then they've, you know, wrapped the guides on kind of deal. And I mean, it makes it lightweight and it looks overall good, but I don't know if it looks $300 good. Feels good though. Advice: X Pride on Asia Porto Ismos. Yeah. Yeah, I think if I got an actual anything heavier than what this 6.9 Super Destroyer is, I would want longer. I think if you stay short and you get too heavy, then you have monster broomstick type thing instead of getting a little longer. So it gives a touch of a tip, but you can get into a heavy or extra heavy type feel. $515 each, Eugene. I can buy the limiteds for that. I got actually, true story. I don't even know if I told you guys what I paid for these. Digitaka, you can still get them brand new. Now, man, this thing's dirty. But I basically got a deal from Andrew on the Super Destroyer, and not this one, but the, was it this one? No, the 7, no wait, yeah, it was this one. So yeah, I bought this reel with this rod. Now I've changed out the handle and the spool since then, and this little deal. But I think I only have $400 in that reel. And like $350 in the Super Destroyer rod. So like $750, I think that was what I gave him. Something like that. No, I added the drag clicker. But I gave $550 for each limited. And honestly, the difference between the limited isn't just the finish, you know, just that they definitely, in my opinion, look cooler, but the fact they got the hyperdrive gearing and the boost spools. You got any Megabass spool, or Megabass, sorry, any Daiwa spool, you're pretty much going to spend $100 for it with the boost. So by the time you did that, and if you bought any reel, even if you could get one, the scratched up ones on eBay are like $250 to $300, but by the time you bought a spool, you're talking about $400, and you still don't have the hyperdrive type stuff. So I won't be buying any of those steezes unless they are like way cheap enough where I could justify either getting or whatever, like a shallow spool, boosted spool, because I think they do make a difference. Now, Eugene, I would be willing to trade because Frank, you're telling me the Dark Sleeper P5 is not sensitive at all? $100 for a Stratic CI4. Yeah, are those the black and red reels that were, I think I remember seeing it. Dun, 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 dun. Well, I know this P5 I have, that Super Destroyer, I'm pretty sure that's the most sensitive rod I've ever had. And it's very light. Like, for what it'll do and the power it has, it is definitely, I think it's just a touch overpowered, but it just is like, I didn't even think I would like it for spinnerbaits, but it just seems like an awesome spinnerbait rod. And jig rod, like throwing 3/8 half ounce spinnerbaits. And I haven't really got on chatterbait bite yet to see if its hookup is good for, I'm sure it will be, just as long as you don't give a jig type hook set for the chatterbait. But man, it's definitely surprised me. I thought it'd be so stiff that I would be losing fish and I just wouldn't like to fight. But although it takes a decent sized fish to put up a fight, it's like you feel confident. It's light, it's easy to use, and you feel confident while you're using it. Will I buy another one? If I could get a deal for $300, something like that, which they claim on Asian Portal or different people places through Tackle Tour or something, it's a possibility to get on some of them for $300. I would think about. They have a bait finesse one. So like in the, I don't know, probably not, but you never know. I think I'm liking the Poison Adrenas, and I should just stop jacking around and buy like X Pride's. Brew Tank now has a 7.2. I think he bought the medium heavy glass, and then he's got the, or no wait, he's got the 7.2 medium heavy. Or did he get a glass? Hell, I don't even remember now. But I'm thinking about getting the 6'10" medium glass, because I think that would be a fun chatterbait rod that once you get the feel of it, you're going to be, I think that's a chance at having a rod that's going to have a hookup ratio better or as good as the Carbon Light 2.0 or the Adrena, but be a funner rod to catch chatterbait fish, small square bills, and all that lower, the little micros and stuff like that, and just be a good all-around filling rod. But then I'll probably still need, or I already have the contest rod and the 6'8" medium in this Wizard rod. But that 6'10" glass, I think medium glass would like fill a little niche that I can't really fill with these other rods, because for whatever reason, when you use a lighter rod with the chatterbait, like I talked about my last year ratio, that 6'7" medium, the contest rods, it's like it feels good. You feel like you're yanking, you feel weight, and that fish just pops off, and you're like, how did that happen? So it shouldn't happen as easy with a glass composite type rod, but will have as much or even more flex than those other rods, and should be fun. So anyway, guys, I got to get out of here. This may be another setting a record. You guys keep talking to me. Eugene, you do not need the Vanquish. What you need is a zillion 10 and a zillion 1000. Yeah, those steeds are hard to find, Eugene. I agree to that. That's why I told you guys. You get high speed ones. Now, just put them back on. I'd put them on eBay if I was you, Eugene. You probably sell them as long as they're still new, not scratched. Mega Bass P5 Bait Finesse 610 for $265 locally. Yeah, you better jump on that one, Bruce. I want to say, though, I saw that rod on Digitaka. Now, it's probably more for shipping, but it was like $3 something, but for brand new one. Eugene you don't want those zillions, do you, Eugene? I don't blame you. They're a little on the heavy side. I went there, tried them. Good reels. I may still keep them on the Carbon Lights. I don't know. I don't even really need the Carbon Lights now that I've got these other two with plans on getting another one, or now they got the Wizards on top of that. But they are awesome rods for what they will do for the money. $129 rods, 10-year warranty, basically. Like, you're just go fish them, bang them into stuff, not worry about them. There's something to be said for that too. Yeah, maybe I'll just keep them and stuff. If I can't sell it, I'm gonna keep it. I still got this Calcutta Conquest BFS HG that I need to sell. Who knows? Maybe I'll pull it out, put it head to head against this Habo Arise Elite. Alright, I'm gone for good now. I gotta go to bed. I gotta get up at 4:45 in the morning. You guys are keeping me up. What time is it? Dear Lord, 11:15? I should have been drinking Fireball. or at least cinnamon Diet Coke with a shot of Fireball in it. Alright guys, I'm gone for real this time. Stay tuned. That video, just watch that little jig catch real quick with the Super Destroyer. And I will be editing, I don't even remember which video is coming up next. It's probably me and Charles at, no. I need those reels. Eugene, I need those reels like I need a hole in my head and more spinner baits or chatterbaits. I don't need any of those. So, a quick heads up. I'm going to be selling everything that's not a Steez Limited, reel-wise. So, even my prized Lingles are going bye-bye. The, let's see here. Let me wipe this off. Brew Tank may want this one, or Matt. Now, I need to put different knobs on this, but my Zillion, my last Zillion, it's going bye-bye. I'm going to buy at least one more Steez Limited, probably end up getting two. But I've got the only reel, I can't decide yet. I'm going to probably see if Charles wants to buy it back. That way it'll stay in the family, so to speak. Even though Charles technically isn't related, he's like family. The Joker. And then I've got the whatchamacallit over here. MK9. So all the Lingle variants, the Lingle that's stock, and the two variants, the Zillion. Even when I'm done doing the plane here, that beat up dude's probably going to go for like, I don't know, 75 bucks, maybe even 50. I haven't decided yet. That dude, I can put it back to stock for like 200. Way it sets, I think I priced it to Brew Tank cheaper, but I would take to anybody else shipping included $265 with the all the gold. And I'll put some kind of better knob. Those not unless you really wanted those. Those knobs, probably stock knobs back on it, but those knobs just don't look quite right with that gold to me. But I got everything to put it back to stock. Which what did I say, well, it's probably more like 215, 200, but 15 for shipping. And the Lingle variants are probably going to go for, probably, if you wanted all three, I'd probably take 50 bucks each, so 150 if you buy all three. Otherwise, I'd have to reconsider what I would charge for them, because like they have extra parts that make them over what the $75 reels would be worth, and that kind of stuff. I don't know if I've got enough stuff to return those all back to stock or not. Can't remember where it is, what's going on. So anyway, something to consider. They will be going bye-bye. Promise you that. I don't know exactly how, when, or what, but they're going. Eugene, I don't need those for $8.99, both reels. No. It's $4.50 each. That is a good deal, Eugene, but I can't do it. Big stash of Rage Menace. Yeah, at one time I did. I don't buy my soft plastics in big bulk. I try to stick with what I can get Z-Man, and then just a limited select few of what other stuff. But I think I'm going to stay away from the Rage Menace. I think I'm going to stay with the Baby Rage Menace. And then these aren't a bad alternative. Those are those Bass Pro Shops house ones with the crazy legs. You could also just tear those legs off and leave them with just those flappers. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hour and a half, I got to go. Sounds like Bruce gonna be having a big sale too. I wish they had like an annual local area kind of thing. Like if you guys know in the country, they always have all these farmer market sales for, whether it be pigs or chickens and all that kind of stuff. I think fishermen need to put more of an effort into, you know, whatever your closest local big lake is, having a big swap meet type things for new and used vendors to go, and instead of these little bitty hit and miss places like that place me and Charles went to. That old dude had some old reels. I mean, it was cool. We ended up, I bought a rod. Charles bought a couple reels, but it'd be nice to go and set up and get rid of your stuff and buy other stuff with a lot of like local guys. And here in the Midwest, there's tons of fishermen around, just nobody ever does anything like that. I guess it's not bougie enough around here. That's what I was watching. That crazy bass fisher, they were at some deal where a lot of the, in Texas, Lake Fork, Texas, where a lot of the, you know, Matt Lures, that Matt, I can't remember his last name, and a few other higher end, you know, people big in the swim bait game were there, and other small companies, stuff like that. And I should make all of my own baits. I should just buy all that crap and do it, but it's hard to find the time. I should learn how to make my own rods, because then I would maybe be happy. But I'm happy now. The Poison Adrenas, and honestly, if the Poison Adrena or the X-Prize didn't exist, I could go full bougie in the Megabass P5s. They seem like I like the rods. And we could always go down to the Phoenix Feather. They make like the full lineup in 7'1", like a medium light, medium heavy, and a heavy, I think, or something like that. I'm sure I would probably be happy with those rods too. See you later.